All right, Sunday night on the Krug Show, and this is not our normal time slot, but man, we are going to make do tonight anyway. Larry Krueger, Vish Kumaran with you, talking 49er football, and we got a bunch of people hanging out who want to hear a little breakdown. Vish, I like that hat, man. That is a sharp-looking lid. Gray hat, black SF. New hat?
No, the hat's old. It's the Shanahan, of course. My sister got it for me for Christmas like 2 or 3 years ago over the pandemic. I usually don't wear a hat. I'm not a big hat guy because I have really curly hair. And sometimes like it just doesn't fit real good over my hair. But I've been wearing this hat all day and I have a bad case of hat head. And so I couldn't afford to do the show without the hat.
There you go. Well, either way, I like it. Can we see it? Can you get a little closer to the camera? Let me see that hat. I want to see more of that hat. Let's see the back of that hat. Is it a fitted or is it a snap?
No. It's just the normal
snap.
Yeah, snap. Is that what they call it?
I don't know.
I know the Velcro, but you know the little
is it Velcro?
Protruding. No. I'm saying Velcro. You call Velcro, but what do you call that little protruding dots that fit between the holes?
Kind of like a I just call it like either a fitted, a stretch fit, or a non-fitted, which means there's either the Velcro or the little league, back snapback. There we go. Hi there.
Snapback. Yeah,
I see snapback.
Oh wow, you got to credit our guy Blank here, who's got it right. He was first. Come on.
Look at the guy who was first. Look at this. Hi there, snapback. Shanto Ortega, snapback. Elias_22, snapback, LOL. Giant Niner fan, snapback. Mark Hope, snapback. Damn, people are just on it. They are on it.
They know more about this stuff than us, Crew.
I know, seriously. It's amazing. Unbelievably, the draft came and went. And this is our first show since the draft, just because of how crazy things have been. Let's just jump into a couple things on the draft. I don't want to dominate all of it with the draft, but some of it. Let's get into the first one, which was a lot of people reacted to Jake Moody, the Michigan kicker, going to the Niners in the comp round, after the third round. Do you view the Niners drafting of Jake Moody there a good pick, a bad pick? Is it a reach? Is it a steal? John Lynch has said since that multiple teams have tried to trade up and get in front of them so they could draft Jake Moody in front of the Niners. I don't know what to believe, if he's saying that just because it's true, or if he's saying it to try to make the pick look better. But what did you think of the 49ers in real time, and what do you think of it now looking back at it?
So unfortunately, I was busy on Friday, so I didn't watch the draft in real time. And of course, I saw my phone had blown up around 10 p.m. Central Time when the draft was coming to a close. And I was like, damn, they really took a kicker, huh? My reaction then is the same as my reaction today, Krug. I'm somewhat indifferent to the pick. I understand the reasonings for it. I feel like we've had two extreme reactions from different groups of people. You have the people that are like, oh, the kicker's completely unimportant, blah, 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 and they shouldn't take a kicker, which I don't necessarily subscribe to, because I do think the kicker's important. I think it's been valuable that Robbie Gould has never missed a kick in his playoff career. I think that's why the Niners have put up with some of the circus that he has brought in the regular season between injuries and having his moments of lulls, because he's always been able to bring it together by the playoffs. So I do think there's value to having a kicker. But I also have seen another extreme of people, really overextend themselves to explain why this is a brilliant pick and not a lot of guys would start for the 49ers and this guy's going to start for the 49ers and all of that. And I'm not sure about that, Krug. If you go look at the list of kickers that were drafted at any point in the draft and their success rate with the team that drafted them, it's not very good. And I think a lot of that is just because a lot of being a kicker is mental, right? Like you get you get zero credit when you make kicks. I mean, how many times did we see Robbie Gould credit Robbie Gould when he was on the 49ers? Because not a lot of people credited Robbie Gould. And you get 100% of the blame when you do miss kicks. In fact, the Florida State kicker, Robert Aguayo, right? The story with him was that his confidence got shattered He was unable to go through it because people were booing him because he was a second-round pick. He was down a kicker. With Jake Moody, that's something that you and I can't sit here and ever know, Krug, if he's made of the right stuff and all of that. So it's impossible for me to project it as this great pick because there's this underlying question that I do not have the answer to. I understand why they made the pick. I think there's value to picking a kicker there. We'll find out if it was a good pick or a bad pick.
Yeah, I mean, it's guesswork at this point. I like that his nickname's Money. I mean,
Right.
I like that he was 4 for 4 in the playoffs. I like that Michigan fans say he's very, very dependable. I just think that we have really high standards for our kickers here in the Bay Area with Robbie Gould having been perfect in the playoffs. Niner fans, when a Niner kicker lines up to kick a field goal in the playoffs, we are assuming that that's a made field goal. I think even Kyle Shanahan is almost to the point where he's spoiled, where he's like assuming that anything inside of 50 is a made field goal. So that's really high standards. I don't have a problem with it as long as it's their guy. They got their guy. If Jake Moody's their guy and they want to roll with him for the next decade, I got a real problem with it if he doesn't make the team. If he gets cut after 1 year like Roberto Aguayo, then I got a real issue with it.
Yeah, right.
I also don't like the fact, and this happens with the Niners seemingly more times than it doesn't. You'll think of the offseason, you'll think of their needs, and then by the time draft day rolls around, they invent a new need. And I thought, hey, you got Robbie Gould. He's a great kicker. You love him. Re-sign him. And it's like, oh, well, he wants more money. Okay, you'll figure it out, but re-sign him. Re-sign your veteran solid kicker. Instead, they don't re-sign the veteran solid kicker, and then they have to invest a day 2 pick in replacing said kicker. And it's like, wow, okay, I wasn't even banking that was a need, but now you've kind of created a need out of thin air by not re-signing Robbie, where you could have re-signed Robbie, and it would have just cost you a few bucks, more money than the rookie will cost, but still just money. And you could have invested that 3rd-round pick in, I don't know, Blake Freeland or maybe a corner or defensive end. I don't know. So I didn't like it in real time, but heck, if that's their guy and they need to go that direction, that's fine. But let's just hope they hit on it. That being said, the only other questions I want to get into on the draft, give me your best pick, give me your worst pick. What was your favorite pick? What was your least favorite pick?
Yeah, best pick hands down was the first pick, in my opinion. Jair Brown's an absolute stud. I think he's a day 1 starting safety for sure, Krug. Yeah. I think he's going to play a lot as a rookie for sure. You look at the positional versatility. I don't think there was a safety that had as many snaps in as many different positions as Jair Brown. We got to see him play as the down safety, got to see him play in the slot, have like actual reps of playing man coverage in the slot. He was able to play single high as a post safety. He played split safety, and he basically fulfilled a lot of the things that Jimmy Ward did for the 49ers at Penn State. I think he's a really good player. I've seen this debate about whether he'll get burnt at free safety given his speed. He's not the fastest guy, but I do think he's pretty explosive, Krug, and he has great agility in his hips to be able to flip his hips and turn his body and run towards the sideline. And he plays with great instincts and anticipation. When you put a pass rush like this in front of him, I'm a little more optimistic of his outlook and his ability to play single high. I mean, look at Tayshaun Gibson, who plays a lot of when the Niners roll to play single high and have a post safety a lot. It's Tayshaun Gibson right now. Tayshaun Gibson is no longer very fast, not at all, but he does a great job of managing his leverage. He has a great awareness of what the offense is trying to do to him and to attack him, and he knows where his limitations are, and he's able to get there a step early based on instinct rather than actual play speed. I think Jair Brown is capable of actually being very similar. So to answer Trock's question and to answer your question, Krug, I thought Jair Brown was the best pick, and I'm actually a little bit more optimistic of his ability to play as a single high post safety if he has to, and I think he's going to play a lot year 1.
You know, the when it comes to 40 times, it's not as simple as they mean something, they mean nothing. they mean a ton for certain positions, and they mean very little for other positions. And to me, I think safety is one of those positions that doesn't mean a whole lot. Hafanga has been plenty fast, and he was downright slow, which is why in the 40, which is why he went in the 5th round. But it's all about instincts, and it's about flow. It's about how important is football to you? How true are your reads? How much are you in your prep? How much are you in the cut-up films? Are you flowing in the right direction? You're doing some guesswork. And if you have good instincts, you're going to guess, and you guess right a lot, guess what? You're going to play fast. And if you have terrible instincts and you guess wrong a lot, then you could be the fastest safety of all time, and you're probably going to get burned a lot because there's going to be all kinds of false steps. So it's about false steps, and that has to do with not speed, but with instincts and knowledge. And I think Jair Brown, I mean, I watched him against Utah. Cam Rising's a good player. He's got good weapons. Heck, Dalton
You like
Kincaid.
Cam Rising?
Well, I don't love Cam Rising as a pro, but I really love him as a college player. And I
agree with that.
Yeah, and he had good weapons. They had good.
He had Dalton Kincaid. Dalton Kincaid is unreal.
Yeah, so I mean, in that Rose Bowl, Jair was the best player on the field, and he had a pick. He had 8 tackles against the run. He had 1.5 sacks. He's not. I don't look at him as strictly a box safety. I think he can play the deep middle. So I think there's a very good chance that he takes Gibson's job away from him early in camp. And they go with Brown and Hafanga and Gibson off the bench. But we'll see. We'll see. The other reason I really love the Brown pick is that you lost some true alphas in your secondary, and Mosley and then Jimmy Ward. And it wasn't just that you need to replace those players. You need to replace those people. And they got a guy who's, lights it up. I mean, he's a worker, he's an alpha, he's a leader. I mean, any way you want to state it, frame it, whatever. Jair Brown's one of those guys. He's a culture player, and they lost 2 real culture stalwarts. So I think I love the pick as well. Now, how about worst pick? I mean, it's always hard to say what's the worst pick, but which guy would you put the label on worst pick?
So worst pick is kind of impossible to say. I'll say the pick I understood, but I didn't like who they took, and that was Cameron Latu, the tight end. It's not that I think Cameron Latu is the world's worst player. I read earlier this week that Scott McClugan was very, very high on the pick, which I found exceptionally interesting. And I kind of understood the Niners process at that point, not having a 4th round pick and seeing the run of tight ends that went in the first 80 picks in front of them. I mean, even up to 93 when Darnell Washington went, the run of between Laporta and Mayer and all of those guys going. I understand the Niners didn't want to wait till round 5 to get their next best tight end. I think they just took whoever was the next best tight end that they had left because they were at a point where they were no longer waiting. I thought Josh Weil from Cincinnati was a better player. I know he had some injury concerns, but I thought he was a higher upside player and a better player. I was surprised that they went with Latu, only because when I watched Latu, he was the most anti-49ers player in one way and one way only. He didn't have any juice after the catch, where he would make the first guy miss, he would run a guy over. And you look at the Niners, every skill player on this team, they have some ability to do that after the catch. In fact, for a lot of them, that's what they're best at. And Latu didn't have that, so I was surprised by that. Josh Weil had that a little bit more, but I was surprised by that pick. I didn't necessarily like it. Now, the one thing I will say I know about Latu, reading about him inadvertently, not about him directly, I was reading about the S2 cognition scores with Bryce Young, all of that. Apparently, this guy scored a 98% on his S2 cognition. So if they're looking for a future quarterback, he's got the S2 cognition to be a quarterback. I'm joking, but really that was the one pick, Krug, that I didn't get it. I didn't love it. And the player didn't make a ton of sense to me given what the Niners usually covet.
Yeah, in real time, I hated that pick too. I'm a little bit buoyed by the fact that McClellan really likes it, had a 2nd round grade on him, and said that, he's got basketball movements, which,
The
maybe
Tony Gonzalez comment was a little crazy, huh?
Yeah, well, and it also, I did see a lot of those same traits that he saw as far as, there's a fluidity and athleticism and a fluidity to Latu that maybe supersedes the measurements, but I didn't see a strength. I saw a guy who dropped balls. I saw a guy who needs greater strength at the point of attack. I don't think he can block defensive ends. Probably better than Tyler Croft, but not as nearly as good as what you want on the line. But the fact that McLuhan had such a high, lofty praise of him and said he would have taken him in the second round and said he's got basketball instincts, and I'll defer to him on that. The one for me that was a no brainer. What are you doing taking Ronnie Bell? I mean, Ronnie Bell's not making this team, and Tyrus Wheat, who is the Mississippi State edge rusher, 6'2", 260. He was still on the board. He had like the second or third best 10-yard split of any of the defensive ends. You had Charlie Thomas there, who was just a ridiculously productive linebacker out of Georgia Tech. I would have taken one of those guys. I would have taken either a really fast linebacker who could run and not taken Jalen Graham, or I would have taken Tyrus Wheat, who went to the Cowboys as an undrafted free agent. I think Wheat comes burning off the edge. And yeah, is he 6'2" and not 6'4"? Yeah, but he still had one of the best 10-yard splits of anybody, and the guy can rush the passer. I mean, he absolutely can rush the passer. And then you took Ronnie Bell, who's a good college receiver, and McLuhan's breakdown on him was like, hey, the guy's a good college receiver, but, he ain't the kind of athlete that it takes to play in the pros. And they're so loaded at wide receiver anyway. Is this guy better than Tay Martin? I don't think so. Is he better than that kid Winstead they just signed out of East Carolina who had a monster year? I don't think so. And he's not nearly as big. He doesn't run fast. He doesn't separate. So I don't know. We'll see.
He's a good player with the ball in his hands. Come on, Ronnie Bell's a tough player.
Yeah.
I actually
is he going to make the team?
Well, look, Juwan Jennings, I think we all think is walking next year, right? He signed his last year of restricted free agency. He's probably going to have another good year. We think he's gone. I saw the contract Allen Lazard got, and Juwan Jennings must be licking his chops. He's going to get some money somewhere. Ray McLeod, we'll see if they keep him, right? He's also going to be a free agent. He signed a 2-year deal last year. This is going to be his second year. This guy, to me, could be the next guy in the slot. He's a tough player. He's going to be a good blocker. We know Shanahan likes that. He's good with the ball in his hands, even though he doesn't have speed. He's got some physicality. Look, there was a player who played in this offense that's kind of similar to him in terms of skill set. He's nowhere near as good as Robert Woods, but that's kind of who he is skill set wise to me. I wouldn't be shocked if 2 years from now he's their slot receiver. I think that but I also wouldn't be shocked, like you said, Larry, if he doesn't make the team and he goes somewhere else by the end of the offseason.
Well, practice squad. I mean, I think he's practice
I don't think
squad.
He's bad, though. I think he's a good player.
No, he was good. Ronnie Bell was one of the more noteworthy players they signed as far as like guy. If you watch college football, everybody knows Ronnie Bell. He had a really good year, tore the ACL junior year, came back the final year, had a good year. I'm just looking at receiver. How many are you really going to take? 5? You got Ayuk, Debo, Juwan Jennings, Danny Gray. To me, Danny Gray is the vertical receiver, so you got him. That means the rest of these guys are battling for one spot. And Chris Conley, Ray McLeod, Tay Martin, Willie Snead, Isaiah Winstead. They got 3 or 4 other camp bodies. But, I think Ronnie Bell's in that mix, Vish, with Conley and McLeod and Snead and Tay.
Yeah.
And I don't know. I don't think it was a position of need. I think he's going to struggle. I'd be shocked. You heard McLuhan say it. If this guy makes your team, your 5th and 6th wide receivers suck. So I kind of agree with that. That's harsh.
That's one man's opinion, I will say. Yeah. I will say it's a very valuable opinion for sure, but it is one man's opinion. And then the other thing is, my guess is, and I didn't really in-depthly watch neither of Lynch and Shanahan's day 3 post-draft presser. I just didn't have time to catch it. But my guess would be that pick at Ronnie Bell was just knowing the kind of receivers they like and how much he just fits within that mold was kind of hey, we like Ronnie Bell. We viewed him as a 5th-round pick or a 6th-round pick or whatever, and he was still sitting on the board in the 7th round. They probably felt the player was too valuable there. Because I agree. As far as the position in need, the numbers are pretty filled out. I think we would expect them to keep only 5 receivers, right? Because they typically keep 4 tight ends. To me, Charlie Warner still is going to make this roster, and Cameron Latu and obviously George Kittle will make the roster too. And I still think it's likely that they could keep 4 tight ends. And given that, perhaps maybe they go to 6 receivers, 3 tight ends this year, Larry. Who knows? But I'm with you. It was not a position in need, especially given that I think we expect 5 receivers to make this roster no matter what, any situation. That's what we expect, right? We expect Debo, Brandon Ayuk, Juwan Jennings, Ray McLeod, and Danny Gray to make this roster. Like, there's zero chance that they don't make this roster. So it doesn't leave a lot of open space for anybody else.
I mean, I do understand why people like the pick, but I don't know. 3-star guy, tore the ACL, not a good blocker, doesn't run after the catch. He's a smart, efficient route runner. There's no question about that. He
runs after the catch. Come on.
And he's got good vertical.
Feisty.
He's 38.5-inch vertical. That's pretty damn good. 4.54 though on a 6-foot frame. I don't know. I mean, he's a little bit of a body catcher. Not my favorite guy for sure. And some people are asking about Isaiah Winstead. I mean, Winstead, they signed after the draft. He looked impressive in the video that he sent around.
That video highlight clip that went through YouTube. Oh, yeah. My God. That looked like the best receiver ever.
I know. He looked good. I will say this, though, for Winstead. The guy caught 88 balls for ECU. It's not like he played dead this year. He obviously can play. It's just a matter of, can 4-7 wide receivers get open in the NFL?
Well, he's got a 4-7 receiver in front of him who also happens to be 6'4" and also has great lateral movement.
In Juwan
Jennings.
Yeah. So maybe these guys are here to be on the practice squad for 1 year. Maybe they let Juwan go at the end of the year, and these guys all fight it out for his spot. Okay, then the 49ers, the one thing with the Niners, if you're a Niner fan, you know this. You got to look at the undrafted guys. Why? Because Azeez Al-Shaair was undrafted, because Kevin Givens was undrafted, because Nick Mullins and Jeff Wilson and Raheem Mostert were undrafted, because the Niners hit in the undrafted free agent world, and they hit a lot. So you can't just sit there and go, and not to mention, I don't know if anybody knows this, 17 undrafted free agents have made it to Canton, the last being Kurt Warner. So these guys who don't get drafted, just because they don't get drafted doesn't mean they can't play in the NFL, and doesn't mean they're not going to star in the NFL. So it's a long shot, but I would say there's no real difference between the 5th round, the 7th round, and the undrafted. It's just kind of situational more than anything. Are there any of the undrafted players that you thought, you know what? I think they got something there?
I haven't gotten into any of the undrafted players. I've seen the Joey Fisher hype. I think you hyped up Joey Fisher to me before the draft itself.
Yeah.
Look, here's what I'll say on Joey Fisher, crew. I haven't gotten Shepard film. I don't plan to find Shepard film. I don't have an interest in studying him as an offensive lineman. I'm also not getting involved on this hype train until we get to see him in the preseason or we hear he's doing well in camp. Because last year I had a lot of people tell me, hey, Donovan West should have been the pick at 64.
Right.
Hey, Donovan West was an absolute steal. Hey, Donovan West is going to be the starting center. And guess what? Donovan West is on the Vegas Vipers right now. So I'm not going to follow this hype game. I'm not going to do this. If Joey Fisher's athletic traits live up to him playing good football in camp and preseason, then I'm going to get involved in the hype train. The athletic profile is really enticing. I saw McClugan say that he projects him as a guard, which I thought was very interesting because, I mean, he's 6'8", right? I mean, I guess the Niners did have Alex Boone, but there's not a lot of 6'8" guards that you see in the NFL. So I found that interesting, Krug, from the Barrows article. But besides that, I'll wait and see what's going to happen with Joey Fisher, who's the undrafted guy who's getting all the hype right now.
Well, I don't know if he's 6'8". He's probably more like 6'5", 6'6". but
excuse me. Yes.
but he's got short arms. So short arm tackles don't typically make it in the NFL. But what I like about him is just that, if you're playing off the bench in the NFL as an offensive lineman, you better be able to play multiple spots because you got 5 linemen and you don't have 5 backups. So that almost guarantees that whatever backup linemen are up on game day can play multiple positions. And the fact of the matter is, some people liked him as a center. Jets worked him out as a center. A lot of people like him as a guard. Some people think he's a right tackle. The fact that he has experience at all 3, I think bodes well for his ability to maybe be up on game day. But we'll see. There's a lot that has to happen between now and then. I will say this of the undrafted class. There's 2 guys that I think you really got to watch for.
Okay.
One is the Texas corner, Deshaun Jameson, who is a mercurial return man. I mean, this guy is not just a good return man. This guy's an electric return man.
Okay.
And he's got pretty good. He's only 5'10". He's a 5'10" corner, but 5'10" corners are not. It's not like he's 5'7". He's 5'10". There's a lot of 5'10" corners out there. He's one of them. The movement skills, the swagger, the confidence, the athletic, the athleticism, that the cockiness. You can see the cockiness in Deshaun Jameson on the field. He's very, very confident player. The other guy that you got to take a look at, and I just interviewed him this week, is Spencer Wagee from North Dakota State. He has a 1.66 10-yard split. Just to put that in perspective, that's the same 10-yard split that Aldon Smith had coming out of Missouri. That's Kalijah Cansey, who moves exceptionally well for a 280-pound defensive lineman. He had the number 1 defensive tackle 10-yard split at 1.64. Wagee's 1.66. So at 300 pounds. At 300 pounds. Yeah. So I'm telling you, I'll wait until I see him, because I like you do not study FCS film. So I have not seen North Dakota State.
You're not just casually watching FCS on college football Saturdays or whenever they play.
There's so many games on TV. There probably is FCS on TV, but I have not studied Spencer Wagee. But I will say this: when you're 300 pounds and you're rolling like that off the snap, Chris Kosaric is going to love him. So we'll see. We'll see what he looks like.
He has a relative athletic score of 9.58, which is ridiculous. Heck, I'm hyped about the Robert Beal Jr. pick simply because Robert Beal Jr. is Adonis, an Adonis that you would draw up to be a pass rusher. Really, that's just how he looks. He looks like he was made in the lab. And I think that Chris Kosaric can really highlight a guy that's that physically talented because he's such a good coach. Otherwise, there's really nothing to be hyped up about because there was little sample size, and I thought the compliment that John Lynch shared about him from Kobe Smart was kind of an insult about his role within Georgia's defense, because he said he's a really good player if you just let him rush the passer and get up the field. But Georgia's defense, and I think this was something that wasn't talked about enough when Trayvon Walker came out, is they don't just allow their edge players to just get up the field every play. They have to two-gap a lot. They have certain responsibilities in the run game as well. And it sounds like Robert Beal Jr. wasn't very good at that. And that's why he didn't play, if at all, even despite having this crazy of a physical profile. So I'm with you on the North Dakota State guy as well, Spencer Wagee, because Chris Kosaric, how good of a coach he is, makes you excited if a guy just has any sort of physical traits you think Kosaric can bring the football player out of him.
Well, I mean, it's all about how simple is the job, and you know what? Maybe they found lightning in a bottle with Beal. I mean, I saw him come off the edge in the national championship game. He was rolling. But, some defenses make you read and react, which will slow you down. Some defenses, maybe you're rushing 5 snaps, but the next 3 you're dropping. The 49ers are not going to ask him to drop. They're going to ask him to burn the edge and set the edge. Set the edge against the run, burn the edge against all pass plays, get upfield, and maybe Beal can do it. I'm skeptical, but at the same time, the measurables are 4.4, and it's worth taking a look at. Rick Salazar has become a YouTube member. I always give a little clap for the newest YouTube members. Thank you to Rick Salazar for jumping aboard. All right, let's get to the next one. This was kind of interesting. The MVP odds are out. Patrick Mahomes is the favorite at plus 650. Interestingly enough, Trey Lance is plus 3,500, which essentially means 35-1. Brock Purdy, on the other hand, is plus 7,500 to win the MVP. That's 75-1. In reading a little bit about the article, obviously about this, a lot of it references the fact that, Purdy's not healthy, so on and so forth. But the other conclusion that was arrived at in this piece was that Trey Lance may have, in the minds of the gambling public, a higher ceiling than Brock Purdy. Do you believe that that's the case? Does Trey have a higher ceiling than Brock Purdy, or are we projecting traits and that's a dangerous thing to do?
I don't know. I don't have enough of a sample size of Trey Lance to be able to know what realistically is his ceiling. If we're looking solely at his physical traits, yeah. If Trey Lance utilizes every single iota of his talent, yes, he's got a higher ceiling than Brock Purdy if he utilizes every single iota of his talent. Now, what is realistically attainable for Trey Lance? I don't know. What is realistically attainable for Brock Purdy? I also don't know, because he's only played 8 games in the NFL. So that's where I think the ceiling argument's a little bit overrated. Because, sure, Trey Lance is definitely physically the more talented player. But, I think sometimes ceiling gets projected in a way that isn't actually realistically attainable. Jake Locker was a high ceiling guy for a while. He still has a high ceiling, but Sam Darnold, another great example. Sam Darnold has a high ceiling as well. Do you think that Sam Darnold realizing every part of his physical talent is really realistic at this point in his career? I would say no. So I think it's pretty complicated, but definitely if Trey Lance is able to realize every part of his talent, if he is that kind of football player, for sure he has a higher ceiling. He has a higher ceiling than a lot of guys playing quarterback in the NFL. He's that talented.
It's one of those things where it's like, I don't know who really has the higher ceiling, because playing quarterback is not as simple as, the bigger guy is better than the smaller guy. The guy with the stronger arm is better than the guy with the weaker arm. The guy who's got, unbelievable foot speed is better than the guy who's slow. It's hard to say that when the best quarterbacks have been guys like Drew Brees, Tom Brady, Joe Montana, if you want to go way back. If you want to go way, way, way back, Johnny Unitas. It's hard to believe. It's hard to say who's got the higher ceiling when the greatest of all time was Joe Montana, and now it's Tom Brady. And I don't, you know what I mean? Tom Brady was tall, but Tom Brady didn't have the strongest arm.
Yeah, great arm.
Joe Montana was tallish, 6'2" and change, but he didn't have the greatest arm. But he had escapability, touch, timing, competitiveness, accuracy.
Yeah, but you also have Elway, and you have Marino, and you have Mahomes, and you have Rodgers. So there's been a lot of physical marvels that have been phenomenal quarterbacks as well, too.
But let's go into that though. I mean, so Aaron Rodgers, he didn't go first, and Alex Smith did, because Alex Smith the thinking was that he had better physical profile. Aaron Rodgers was 6'2", 225. Alex Smith was 6'4" and a half, 220. So he had bigger size. And I mean, it's like, it really comes down to, it's not really about the physical. It's so much more about your machine, the machine that you have, that makes your decisions, that gets the ball out on time, how well you play. It's like, is Mahomes the biggest and the strongest? Not really. Herbert's bigger. You could probably make an argument there's lots of guys who are stronger, but he's the best, right? I would say Josh Allen is bigger and stronger than Mahomes, but Mahomes is better. You know what I mean? So it's one of those things where I agree that Trey's got a great skill set, but a higher ceiling, I think that has to come down to how well he plays the position. And at this point, it's all speculative. But I think it is interesting. Obviously, the gambling public feels that Trey has a higher ceiling than Brock, or 35-1 as opposed to 75-1 is more about Brock and this injury, and that there's a lot of skepticism whether Brock will come back from it, the same, will he be diminished? I think there's probably a lot of speculation.
I have a different outlook on it. I think those odds kind of just scream that the gambling public is just high on the 49ers. They think that regardless of who plays quarterback, that guy's going to be successful because of who he's coached by and who he's surrounded by.
You're saying that well, but then wouldn't they both have higher odds than 35-1?
Well, at the end of the day, they're still unknowns, right? It's tough to give them higher odds than Josh Allen, and there's two of them, right? If we knew one of them was the definitive starter, I think their odds would be better than a lot of people besides perhaps the Mahomes, the Burrows, the Allens, the Justin Herberts.
It is interesting, though, what is the ceiling of Trey Lance? What is the ceiling of Brock Purdy? We don't know.
That's the problem.
Yeah,
for either.
It's so speculative.
I think people pretend to know, right? They say, well, Trey's bigger. Trey has a stronger arm. And it's like you said, those things don't always indicate the better quarterback. They indicate physically that he's the more talented quarterback. But that's if all the other things are equal, then his bigger arm makes a bigger difference than Purdy's weaker arm, And that's where, to me, it's still completely speculative because realistically, we don't have enough of a sample of the high end to say that's what Trey Lance's high end is. In fact, we don't even have enough of the sample of the low end to say that's what his low end is. We don't know what he is. We haven't even seen the guy play back-to-back games.
I will say this. If you go watch my interview that I did last week with Spencer Wagee, who was his teammate at North Dakota State, he was glowing in his praise of Trey. Now, granted, they're buddies, they're former college teammates, but he's like, man, wait until you see this guy get healthy. I mean,
that's awesome.
Yeah. He's like, wait until you see this guy get healthy. Some of the things that this guy can do are incredible. He also kind of said that, hey, look, Trey's a great dude who's already texted him about, hey, you're signed as an undrafted free agent. And he's like, he was at our spring practice. He's like, he's the exact same guy today as I remember when I saw him when I was a freshman. Even though he's played in the NFL 3 years and he's at our local, he's at our spring game in Fargo. He's not big leaguing anybody. He's like the same guy he always was. And to me, that goes a great distance as well as to tell you a little bit of a glimpse into the person of Trey Lance as opposed to just, the hype or whatever people are saying or arguing. Here's one. Will the 49ers and should the 49ers, and this might be two different answers because I want to throw it out in both directions. Will they and should they sign a veteran edge rusher before training camp?
Should they? I think they should. 100%. You got Leonard Floyd, you got Yannick Ngakoue. Those two guys, I think, are game changers. And here's one point that I've made over the last couple of weeks, not to pat myself on the back, but I haven't heard other people make. One thing the Niners lost or thought they were getting when they signed Dee Ford was a big sack fumble guy, right?
Right.
The Niners of their pass rushers don't have a sack fumble guy, right? The guy that comes around the edge and just swipes down at the ball. That was Dee Ford's game. That is Yannick Ngakoue. I think Yannick Ngakoue has 20 forced fumbles over the last 3 to 4 years.
Really?
Something like that.
Wow. That's impressive.
Yannick Ngakoue is a big sack fumble guy. Let me just say that. I don't have the stats off the top of my head, so I'm not going to say that. I think that's a difference maker that this team is missing. So should they 100%? I believe they should, especially now that the compensatory formula is no longer being costed against, right? Now, will they? Krug, they created this cap space to sign their draft and have a little bit of room to play with. But just seeing how they've operated financially, I don't think they're going to want to give a multi-year contract to a Yannick Ngakoue or a Leonard Floyd because they're going to want to see what they have in Drake Jackson. And so I think that in order for them to sign one of them, they would have to sign for like a 1 year. We're lucky to have you. You're signing for a little cheaper because you want to help us win a Super Bowl kind of deal. I don't think they're going to spend or do something a little bit extra or look at those kind of guys with the desperation that if we get those guys, we win the Super Bowl. So we're going to do whatever we can to go get them, right? Like the way the Niners went into a little bit of salary cap trouble in 94 to sign all of those guys. I don't think they're going to do something like that because I think they're going to keep their options open to once again try and make a move near the trade deadline. We know they like doing that. And so will they? I think it's going to come down to the kind of money that teams start offering the Leonard Floyds and the Yannick Ngakoues because honestly, Krug, I can't see them being aggressively out of character by giving those two guys a multi-year big type contract at this point when their roster is very much set. And I think they're very contented with it. It would have to be like Yannick Ngakoue signs a 1 year, $8 million deal just to play 1 year with the 49ers to pad his stats and go get a big deal elsewhere. That kind of a deal, I think.
I think they absolutely should, and I kind of think they will. I'm more in a stronger feeling about they should. They're in their Super Bowl window. Rushing the passer is, everything. And to me, I don't know about Frank Clark. He runs a little hot. I don't know about Jadeveon Clowney. I'm not really sure.
Always hurt.
He's hurt, and it's like, is he an edge rusher or is he a guy that's best, moving all over the field? I kind of like him over the nose. I kind of like him rushing from all angles. He would give you a lot of versatility. Yannick Ngakoue and Leonard Floyd, absolutely. I think they need a proven entity. They lost a lot with Ebukam, Amenahue, and Jordan Willis, and I love Drake Jackson, but I'm not as big a fan of Bryant or of Farrell. And I believe in Drake Jackson, and I believe they do too. But to me, the 49ers would be an awesome outfit if they had Leonard Floyd. 6'6", 245, tons of speed. 3 years in a row, he's been really good with the Rams. Ngakoue, 10 sacks a year. He's a consistent force off the edge. To me, they will. I think they should because they're in their Super Bowl window, and I think this is the one weakness on their entire team is the lack of a premier edge guy opposite Bosa. And I think Ngakoue and Floyd are premier. And I would if I couldn't sign them, I would trade a pick in next year's draft for Montez Sweat. Why? Because I think they're in their Super Bowl window. I think this year is their last best chance to get it done with Trent Williams, George Kittle, and this Niner core. So this is the year that I would extend. This is the year and that would be in free agency, on the cap, in a trade. This would be the year that I would do it. Now, will they do it? I think they will. I do. I think that they will. I think that the market sets up nicely for them. And it might not be those guys. It might be Jason Pierre-Paul. It may be Melvin Ingram. It may be somebody a little bit, maybe Justin Houston. Might be somebody who's a little longer in the tooth.
Houston's still a difference maker. So is Pierre-Paul, I would say.
I think so too.
Melvin Ingram as well, actually, in fact.
They're all, football. The edge rusher position, the D-line position especially, but really on the edge, it's so much about technique. And it's about, that's why the older guys, they lose a step, but they gain so much in knowledge that even though they've lost a little physically, they've gained a little mentally, and it winds up kind of evening out.
Right.
I just think one more guy, maybe Jason Pierre-Paul might not be a bad name because he was good with Baltimore. 2 years ago, I think he won the Super Bowl with Tampa.
He still plays the run really well, which is the concern with Ngakoue.
Yeah, and he's a big guy. He's a big-bodied guy. Pierre-Paul would be really nice, but I definitely think the Niners are one veteran edge rusher away from being very, very special.
I
All right.
agree with you. By the way,
Yeah.
Ngakoue, that's 21 forced fumbles in 6 years for Yannick Ngakoue in his 2
Wow.
years.
And that's such an impactful play, Vish, that I'd prioritize getting him because to me, that play if you make that play and it's a sack, it's a B. If you make that play and it's a sack and it's a fumble and you recover it, that's an A play. That's a play that helps you win the game.
Right. And I think that when you look at, the kind of quarterbacks that are in this division with Geno and Matthew Stafford, guys that like to stand in the pocket and make big time throws down the field, swiping at the ball is going to affect them. Geno Smith used to have trouble fumbling in the pocket back when he used to play with the Jets.
There you go. Val Ramos says, Larry, love your new flag. That's Breezy. Breezy gave me the nitty gritty Niners.
Wow.
Over my left shoulder there. That's a nice one. I love me some Breezy with that Niner, my third Niner flag. All right, let's get
You gotta
to
get me one, Larry.
Oh, see, I'll make a call to Breezy. We hook up every Wednesday. Don't you do a regular hit with Breezy?
No, but I've gone on with Breezy before. Awesome guy. Fantastic entertainer.
Who do you do weeklies with? Who do you do weekly hits with?
Just you, Larry. Yeah, I don't have that kind of time.
Oh, I thought you. Oh, I thought you were doing a weekly hit with somebody else. No.
No.
Okay.
Oh, with Rob. Yes, we do.
Rob.
Show on Monday.
Rob
Guerrera, your new
Rob
friend.
Guerrera.
Your new
Rob
friend.
Guerrera. That's right. My new buddy. We're buds now. We're tight.
Exactly.
We're really tight.
Exactly.
Okay, here we go.
By the way, Larry, shout out to you. I noticed you said Jersey. You said all of those other places. You didn't say Chicago, so I appreciate that.
You know what? I knew that was going to come back to haunt me, man. Seriously, I knew I was going to come back to haunt me. I was pissed and I was lashing out, and I would never lash out at you, my brother, because that's the way we roll. I know,
Larry.
You're an OG. You're an OG with me. We're tight. We're thick as thieves. I was just trying to make the distinction that there's a difference between covering a story face to face and from afar. That's all. And I just was saying that I make a distinction, but doesn't mean that I don't value. I mean, some of the people's opinions I value the most are yours, Jesse's, Breezy's, Crocs. I mean, how many of these guys are sitting in the backyard? How many of these guys are showing up at camp every day?
I completely. I understood your point. You were just trying to defend Jack because I feel like Jack has been taking a lot of unnecessary criticism at times, and I'm with you. Jack is in there. He's out there every single day covering the team, and he definitely deserves credit for that for sure.
And I'll say this about Jack. Jack is such a good human being. He's such a good, decent guy. He's not trying to twist anything. He has no agenda. I've never heard him argue for or against anything. For the most part, when I talk to him in the media room, he's not like, oh, this guy or that guy or this player or that player. He's just taking it as it comes and trying to bring you guys closer to the action. So I admire Jack quite a bit, and I do want to shout him out a little bit and show him some love.
And I will say this to Jack's credit too, just to add on to that. I feel like a little bit, Larry, looking at how the offseason went and some of the things that the Niners have told us about Trey Lance, I feel like a lot of people have now jumped on he wasn't that good in camp and he wasn't that good in practice. And I find that 180 very annoying because as someone whose reliance is on other people's reporting to be able to consume what goes on in practice, there was a lot of Trey Lance was doing great last year. There were a lot of that practice was fantastic and stuff like that. And I feel like a lot of people are doing the 180 now that it's comfortable to criticize it. Jack was one of the few people who was consistent with how inconsistent practice was back then during camp itself. And so I'm looking forward to reading his coverage this year as well. And sometimes he doesn't write what I like or want to hear is going on in camp practice, but it's individual and I'm sure it's accurate.
Yeah. I mean, I will say this: Jack is balanced. He's. I don't feel like he's like, he's not pro Trey, pro Brock, pro anything. He's just like, okay, let's see what it looks like, and then we'll talk about it. So, one of the videos I did today are the 49ers and the Eagles the new Niners Cowboys of the late 80s and early 90s? And if not, give me the team in the NFC that's going to interrupt this thing. And I looked it up. I looked up the numbers for some of you who may not know them. I thought it was pretty interesting. This is what I found, Vish. Okay. In the last, so from 89 or 88 to 97, okay, the 49ers, that's 10 seasons. 10 seasons, the Niners or the Cowboys were in the NFC Championship game, one or the other, 8 of the 10 seasons. 1 year was Washington, Detroit. 1 year it was Green Bay, Carolina. Every other year between 88 and 97, it was either the Niners or the Cowboys or both in the NFC title game. And of course, we know 92, 93, 94, the Niners faced the Cowboys 3 straight years. But now, here we go, fast forward to the present. Niners lose the NFC Championship game to the Rams 2021. They lose the NFC Championship game to the Eagles 2022. Are we on the verge of a decade-long Niners versus Eagles, Eagles versus Niners? Is that going to be like Niners Cowboys in the 80s and 90s, Niners Eagles? And if not, give me the team that's going to get in there instead of Niners or Eagles.
Yeah, so I'm going to go with no.
No, you're going to go with no.
Now, yeah, right now it's hard to find that other team, right? Because you look at both these rosters, they're built to win for at least the next couple of years, and they're loaded. They are loaded from top to bottom. But the one distinction that when you bring up the Niners Cowboys from the 80s is both teams had stability at quarterback. Niners had Steve Young, who won multiple MVPs in the 90s. And the Cowboys had, former number 1 overall pick Troy Aikman, who was their guy at quarterback. The Eagles paid their guy. They know who their guy is. I cannot project it. The Niners are a year-to-year team to me in how I project them until I know who their long-term solution is at quarterback, because we've never seen teams that have extended, 4, 5, 6, 7 years of success when they have a different guy basically starting at quarterback every year, every other year. And so as long as that exists, it becomes very difficult for me to project the Niners' future. Whether that's Trey Lance this offseason, taking the ascension that Niners fans and everybody hoped was going to take when they drafted him, whether it's Purdy coming back from injury and cementing his status as the 49ers starter because he plays the same exact way he played for 8 games last year. I need one of those things to happen before I project the Niners going forward. Like right now, I think they can be a very good team next year, but then the year after that, given how the roster is laid out, given who they're going to have to pay, given that Trent Williams' future seems a little bit hazy on when he could or couldn't retire, I think there's a few financial decisions that they have to make as well. And just the attrition of the NFL, it's tough for me to project the Niners as a great team in 25 and 26 unless I know, hey, Brock Purdy came back from injury. He's going to be a good quarterback. He's started now, 15 games for the 49ers, and he's looked, like a franchise quarterback for 15 starts. Or Trey Lance had an outstanding offseason. Trey Lance looks like the guy that was the 3rd pick in the draft. He looks like he's going to be the guy. And I think John Shoup hits it exactly. They're going to have turnover with their roster in the near future. And until they have that quarterback position completely solidified with he's the guy, he's the long-term answer, it's tough to see them overcoming that turnover. Now, in terms of the other roster, geez, I don't like the Vikings roster long-term, 100% no. But Seattle is one I like, I guess, kind of. I like them better than other ones. The Lions I kind of like. We'll see about them. I secretly like Green Bay's roster. When you look at the 8 first-round picks they have on their defense, you look at the fact that their offensive line is pretty good year after year, but I have no clue what Jordan Love is. But Green Bay is one with their, Lambeau home field advantage. I like Atlanta. I like what
Wow.
they signed on their defense. Now, I don't like them as a team that's competing with the Niners. I'm just saying I like them as a team in the NFC. I
With
like their
Desmond
weapons.
Ritter, really?
Well, there's the problem, Larry.
Well,
How am I supposed to get on that? So it really puts you in a precarious situation to pick against anything against other than the Niners and Eagles. But sure,
Randy Daytona says, I like the Falcons for some reason. I
I
do
like
think,
the trio of Bijan, Kyle Pitts, and Drake London, and I like
okay,
Arthur Smith a lot. I like
okay.
Arthur Smith a lot.
Uh, look at this. 205. Vish hella negative. What?
Oh
Yeah,
yeah,
Vish is super
I'm a
negative.
negative Nelly.
Negative Nelly. No, I would say, yeah, it's Niners Eagles. Here's why. Dallas has got some talent, but Prescott's sub 500 in the playoffs, and I don't believe in him. Minnesota's got some offense, some of the best offensive weapons in the game, and I like what they've done on offense, but defensively they're a sieve. And Cousins doesn't win big games and doesn't win playoff games. Detroit's coming, clearly, but you still got Jared Goff. Tampa I thought, had a real nice draft, but it's Baker
Tampa's
Mayfield.
the best, man. They're 2 years away from being something.
I mean, unless Baker Mayfield somehow gets it going. Bryce Young could be really special. I think Carolina's got some really nice pieces, but
their defense has got some talent too, right?
Yeah. Oh, heck yeah. They got a lot of talent. J.C. Horn and the big
Brian
man up
Burns,
front.
Derek Brown,
Brian
your
Burns,
favorite guy.
Derek Brown.
I mean, are we not going to have Larry Krueger doing 2 or 3 topics on how the Niners should trade for Derek Brown this offseason?
Derek Brown is great. The other that nickelback they have that's awesome that
Jeremy
they got?
Chin?
Yeah, Jeremy Chin. Jeremy Chin is a damn good player. So Carolina, I like their team and I like their head coach, but Bryce Young, very much a projection. We don't know. Same with the Bears. I believe in Ryan Poles. I think Ryan Poles is building something there. They got Braxton Jones last year. He's a great tackle. They got the big Tennessee kid at right tackle. I love what Poles is doing in Chicago. I think he's a terrific young GM. But Fields is a work in progress as a passer. But now he's got DJ Moore and Claypool. So I mean, he's got some weapons. And Moody. Green Bay, I agree with you. Great organization, but we don't know about Jordan Love. Seattle, John Schneider's an awesome GM, but Geno, I don't think Geno's going to be on top of the heap. The Rams are a team that are interesting because the Rams still have McVay and Stafford, but their cap issue, I think, probably keeps them down.
Look,
and then
Larry,
the team that we're not mentioning is probably the New York Giants. Yeah.
So I agree with you on the Giants, and I would love to hear what you have to say about them because I do think there's a projection there as well with Daniel Jones too. But I like Daniel Jones better than most, but I also don't love Daniel Jones. But the Rams are interesting to me because you think if they have healthy Donald, healthy Kupp, healthy Stafford with McVay in such a bad NFC, they could possibly sneak into the back end of the playoffs, right, as a 7 or 6 seed. But again, when we're talking about these teams at least competing with the Niners next year, none of them looked equipped to compete with the Niners Eagles next year for sure. But long term, Larry, do you really believe that this is going to be Niners Eagles the way it was Niners Cowboys for 5, 6, 7 years?
I do, just because I have that much of belief in Howie Roseman and the momentum that the Eagles have putting together. And I think that the combination of Lynch and Shanahan, the Niner thing's totally predicated on either Trey's the guy or Brock's the guy. If neither is the guy, then no. But if either is the guy, then yes. And I think either one of those guys could be the guy. And I think Lynch, the more I go on in time, the more I think John Lynch is a damn good GM. I really believe that. The Niners are pretty freaking stacked. It's a good roster. And it's a good roster almost every year, the last 3 or 4 years. I mean, the Niners have been in 3 of the last 4 NFC championship games, and they've done it with quarterbacks that were all kind of like, what? Really?
Who?
So that's a lot of Lynch. And I know people don't, I think early on we wanted to give Shanahan credit and be like, I don't know about Lynch. But I think now years have gone by. You've got Peters there. They're hitting on day 3 picks. I thought the last year draft, they had no number 1 last year. Look at the look at the draft haul from 2022 before and after the draft. And I like this year's draft, maybe not quite as much, but I think they hit on some undrafted guys. I just think that Lynch is a really good GM and Shanahan's a really good NFL head coach. I don't know if they're number one, but I think both guys are probably top 7 or 8, let's say.
I agree. For sure.
And that combination with what the Eagles have going momentum wise, and then the other thing is, it's partially my statement about the Niners and the Eagles, but it's partially my pessimism about the rest of these guys. I mean, I got to see a quarterback that I really believe in to sit there. I mean, Jalen Hurts is a force. Prescott's not. Kirk isn't. Goff's not. Mayfield's not. Justin Fields, I don't know. Jordan Love, I don't know. Bryce Young, I don't know. The one team that I think is maybe should not be overlooked that could interrupt this is the New York Football Giants, because I think it's a good organization. And it kind of reminds me a little bit of Harbaugh hooking up with Alex Smith. You get Daboll with Danny Dimes. You get a lot of similarities there. And I think New York could be that one. Chicago could interrupt this because they're the one team. If Fields continues to ascend rapidly, he's a big play guy. And if you give him weapons and a good surrounding cast, and I think Poles is a terrific GM, I would say it's Niners Eagles, and if it's not Niners Eagles, it's because the New York Giants or the Chicago Bears got in there. That would be my thought on it.
I agree with you, but I do think a lot of our rejection of quarterbacks like Dak Prescott and Geno Smith and Kirk Cousins, who hover around the top 10, 11, 12 quarterbacks in the sport, is because the Niners own that style of quarterback on defense. But at what point is attrition going to catch up with the Niners defense too, right? They've had 4 years in a row as a top 5 defense. The only other 2 teams that have had 4 years in a row as a top 5 defense was the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. They had 4 years as a top 5 defense. They fell off year 5. The other one was this Legion of Boom Seattle Seahawks. They had 5 years as a top 5 defense in the sport, and the 6th year they fell off. Obviously, the Niners, Warner and Bosa are still young. They just signed Javon Hargrave, who's a stud. Hufanga was just a first-team All-Pro. Like, it's young, it's talented, it's fantastic. Like, we really do expect this defense to continue remaining excellent. But we've not seen longevity from a defense in a while to this extent. At what point does attrition catch up? I don't know, and that's where projection becomes very difficult with the Niners long-term, because the safest long-term projection in the sport of football has always been consistent quarterback play, right? It's always been that. And with the Niners, like you said, there's a belief that Purdy could be the guy, Lance could be the guy, but we don't know that yet. And right now, a lot of our projection looking at the other teams in the NFC is that, hey, the Niners defense is so good that none of these teams can do anything against them with these quarterbacks, right? You bring up a Justin Fields, not because Justin Fields is some star quarterback. It's simply because the projection of those physical traits and the playmaking ability that comes with that, and seeing guys that are physically just overwhelmingly capable of making plays off schedule, and what that's done to the Niners defense over the last 5 years, whether it's the Josh Allen, the Patrick Mahomes, even Carson Wentz has given this defense a lot of trouble just because of his size and his physical capability to make plays. Fields, in fact, week 1, where he didn't play so well for 95% of the game, made 2 really, really good plays off schedule that were kind of the difference in a crappy game in crappy weather. And so I completely understand what you're saying, Larry, and I agree with you, but I find it difficult to project the Niners defense to be successful beyond just, hey, they're going to be good next year. Just knowing the history of the sport of football and seeing what's happened to defenses over time.
Well, and D'Amico's gone, right? And who knows about Steve Wilkes? We don't know how the defense is going to look this year. Bosa doesn't think there's going to be significant changes, but you never know. You never know. All right, we're coming down the home stretch. Just a few more. Okay, Brandon Allen. Since we last met, the Niners have signed Brandon Allen as their number 4 quarterback. Do you like him?
Sure. He started games, played for Cincinnati, played for Denver.
Is he more like Purdy or is he more like Lance? Or is he like neither?
Let's just say he's better than Josh Johnson if it comes to that.
To me, I think he's the best quarterback that they could get. Who's likely to clear waivers. I look at it that way. You got to have somebody.
That's a great way to put it. Yeah.
Yeah, he's not. You got to clear waivers in this fourth quarterback spot. All right, one of the headline.
I love how you put that.
One of the headline grabbing moments of this week in Ninerland was Matt Mayoko stating that Sam Darnold may be the best thrower of the football the 49ers have ever had at quarterback. Give me your assessment of that. You can take that in any direction. You can address it on its merit. You can speak to the fact that Mayoko got that from somebody. You can whatever you find the most interesting angle of Matt Mayoko, who's very connected with the 49ers, stating that Sam Darnold may be the best thrower of the football the 49er organization has ever seen. What do you make
so
of that line?
What do we know about Matt Mayoko? We know that he's pretty uncontroversial.
Right?
He doesn't usually share strong opinions. So my guess for him saying that is that somebody very, very high up in the 49ers gave him the impression that that's a very, very intelligent opinion.
That's a hot take.
Not even a hot take. I think he might have looked at it as, like if I just stated as a matter of fact, like this is just a fact. Sam Darnold is the most talented thrower. I think that's the case. Doesn't feel like something he would say. Look, I do think Sam Darnold is a talented passer. He's got a really quick delivery, Larry. I mean, he fixed his motion from college. He used to have that really loopy motion at USC. Now he has a really clean, tight, quick, delivery. He has a quick delivery. He's capable of making off-platform throws, right, with his feet in funny positions, his body in funny positions. So just purely throwing the football, I guess he has talent. Pretty ridiculous thing to say, though, when an organization has had Joe Montana and Steve Young. And look, I know that Montana and Steve Young aren't Aaron Rodgers or John Elway when it comes to just pure talent throwing, but they were pretty gifted passers, pretty gifted throwers, very gifted passers, very gifted throwers, very accurate with great timing, great rhythm, ability to throw people open, all of that. This was ridiculous. I'm sorry. I have so much respect for Matt Mayoko, but this was ridiculous, man. This was ridiculous. But I don't think it's his opinion. I think somebody in the 49ers made him feel confident to say that because they think it's the case.
Yeah. I mean, it's interesting, one, because Joe Montana is a 49er.
Right.
I mean, come on. Joe Montana is a 49er. And I know Joe didn't have the huge arm, but come on, and now if he was, to me, it's interesting because Matt is very connected. It's more interesting to wonder who said that to Matt, that he repeated that. Let's just say this. When we're on the sideline, I don't hear Matt making these proclamations like that wide receiver ran the out. That's the greatest out I've ever seen a Niner run.
What's the last proclamation you've heard him made? I'll tell you what it is that I remember.
I don't remember any. That's why
Trey Lance was the best rookie quarterback he'd ever seen.
Okay.
2 weeks into that offseason or something like that. You remember that? So but he doesn't make proclamations. That's the point. He rarely shares his opinion.
209. I guess much 209. Yeah. Says Larry Mayoko cleared that up. He did? No, he just said he said that Sam Darnold may be the best thrower, but he may not be. He went back the other day because so many people were raking him over the coals. But to me, the more interesting thing is not, does Matt Mayoko know what he's talking about? Because Matt's not a scout, and Matt's not trying to be a scout, and he's never tried to be a scout. He's a reporter. He's a reporter. And to me, he's reporting somebody else's thought. And I just think it's interesting. To me, the most interesting part of that is somebody wants that out there and shared that to put that out there.
Oh, for sure.
And that to me is the most interesting. Isn't it? Isn't that the most interesting to you as well? Is that somebody with the Niners?
I didn't look at it like that. Actually,
wanted that out there in the discussion.
I didn't look at it like that actually, but I did look at it as somebody within the 49ers is absolutely just, when the conversation of Sam Darnold comes up, they're just, Sam Darnold is this, and all of them involve him being the greatest ever. And they're telling that to Matt Mayoko. That's the impression I got. And it's funny because he works for NBC Bay Area and they're affiliated with the 49ers, right? The 49ers.com website posts a lot of their stuff. He gets access to do an interview with Kyle Shanahan and John Lynch, the once-a-week Shanahan interview. And Greg Papa also does the interview there with Shanahan. And he said when Sam Darnold got signed, an employee of the 49ers, he said, I wouldn't be shocked if Sam Darnold is the guy starting week 1. There's a lot of Sam Darnold smoke here. There's a lot of people saying that the Niners loved him before that draft. We know that a lot of people affiliated with Fox, like Peter Schrager, who was on the broadcasting team that John Lynch was on. He was the sideline reporter. Colin Cowherd, they've said that they know John Lynch loved Sam Darnold before that draft. We know the Niners would have studied him because they were in the market for a quarterback in 2018 until Jimmy G did that. And so given all of that, gosh, Larry, they're really putting it out there. And we did hear the coach bloviate about how Sam Darnold is the second coming for 3 minutes, during the owners' meeting. So,
I mean, I'll just say this. That was the head scratcher comment of the week by far.
Crazy.
By far. All right, couple last ones. If the 49ers go forward with their current roster as is, do not add any pieces to the puzzle, they don't have any additions, what's their weakest link? What is the 49ers' weakest link on the roster if this roster today on May the 7th is the roster they go to camp with? What's their weakest link?
Quarterback
or cornerback?
Who's the answer?
You said the Niners quarterback. So either Brock or Lance or Darnold is the weakness to the team?
Not that they individually are the weakness to the team. The fact that there's not a definitive answer there, to me, is a weakness to the team. I think individually, all of them have the capability of becoming the answer. But if you sit here and tell me when the 49ers, if you sit here and tell me in 2024 and you say the 49ers went 7-10, what do you think went wrong? I would say, I think Trey Lance didn't play up to snuff, or Sam Darnold didn't play up to snuff, or Brock Purdy's elbow didn't recover and he was not the same guy. I wouldn't say, hey, the Niners O-line, man, those guys, they couldn't block anybody. The Rams and Aaron Donald sacked whomever was at quarterback 8 times, gave them 0 chance. That was not going to happen. No. If you told me the Niners lost in the Super Bowl next year and you said, why do you think they lost? Say they probably played Patrick Mahomes and the quarterback wasn't good enough. What we haven't had this when we've had conversations about why the 49ers haven't won the Super Bowl each of the last 4 years. In 2019, it was because the quarterback wasn't good enough. In 2020, it was because he got hurt. And this was with a bunch of other people getting hurt. In 2021, it was because the quarterback was hurt and not good enough. And then in 2022, it was because the quarterback was hurt. We've never said it's because, hey, the right tackle needed to be a little bit better, or, man, if they had better safety play. Because really, when it comes to all of it, sure, we wish that their offensive line was a little bit better. It's going to be a top 15 offensive line in the NFL. I told you this last year when people said the offensive line wasn't going to be good. I'm saying the same thing this year. So when you're picking at it, sure, a lot of things could be better, Larry, but I think that it's all good enough where if you told me tomorrow the Niners had, Trevor Lawrence as their quarterback, a guy who's not yet Ma Mahomes, Allen, but he's still pretty good, I would have them as prohibitive Super Bowl favorites. So therefore, number one weakness, quarterback for sure.
Okay, fair enough. I'm going defensive end. I mean, if Nick Bosa has a hamstring injury and is going to miss 2 games, they will start who? Drake Jackson, Cleveland Farrell, Drake
True,
Jackson, Austin
true.
Bryant, Drake Jackson, Kerry Hyder, Drake Jackson, Robert Beal, Drake Jackson, Alex Barrett.
Hey.
To
To be fair,
me,
Kerry Hyder did have 9.5 sacks in that exact situation in 2020.
but to me, it's defensive end. It's defensive end. If they don't, they're leaning too much on Bosa. If Bosa, who's been hurt a lot, if Bosa is hurt for any extended period of time with this current alignment, they're cooked. You're not rushing them. You're going to get Hargrave and Armstead will get comboed inside, and they'll let the edge rushers go one-on-one outside. Cleveland Farrell's got 10 sacks in 4 years. Bryant doesn't sack the quarterback a ton. Robert Beal is fast but unproven. Hyder is a combo. He's like the last D lineman on your line who's just there because of versatility. To me, it's putting way too much on Bosa right now, way too much on Drake right now. They need a big time edge rusher. They need another edge rusher of note. And if they in their current alignment, if they lost Bosa for even 2-3 games, they would have a hard time mounting a consistent outside rush, and that would burn them. I think it would expose their secondary. So I'm going to say D end.
I agree with you. I think that Bosa getting hurt would immediately take them out of the Super Bowl conversation for sure. But the last time he did get hurt, D Ford also was hurt for basically the entire time he was hurt. And they were able to do it with Deion Jordan and Kerry Hyder.
Yep.
With Armstead rushing inside. They didn't have a player of Javon Hargrave's caliber, right? There was no DeForest Buckner at the time Bosa got hurt, and they still had a top 5 defense. And I don't think that secondary, by the way, Larry, especially, I don't think that secondary was as good as the one that they're going to have this year. I don't think it was as good. I think Mooney Ward and Jason Verrett was a wash, but they had Emmanuel Mosley hurt for in and out of that season as well, and they had a few guys start at corner, especially at the end of the season, like Akella Witherspoon did a little bit and all of that. I think Diamador Lenore, the way he played at the end of last year, is a bit better than what they had starting when Mosley was hurt as well. So as worried as I am in that situation, because I do agree with you, it's a massive need. We've kind of seen them, overcome it before, because there's a few other stars on this defense like Armstead and Warner, and at the time Jimmy Ward as well, who were able to compensate for quite a bit.
All right, 3 last mentions, and then we're out of here. This is a tough one. Most underrated 49ers content creator. Underrated.
Jeez, man. That's like everybody, huh?
So you can't go with Grant because Grant's he's
Properly
not underrated.
rated?
He's rated.
Rated. Okay.
He's rated. He's rated fairly high. So you can't go with Grant. But who is the most underrated? Now the chat's starting to blow up.
This is easy. Jose Sanchez. For sure.
Jose Sanchez.
He writes for all 49ers SIs. Jesse underrated?
I don't know. A lot of people saying Raj. People saying Jose, you.
I guess. Okay. Cool.
Ryan? Who's Ryan? Ryan who?
Ryan Hensley. Sure.
Ryan Hensley.
Everybody's
I know.
underrated.
I don't know him by Ryan. I know him by Hensley.
But if I had to say one, I feel like all these other people that are mentioned do get a little bit more clout than Jose. I think Jose does an awesome job. He's really objective. I feel like he writes the truth, and I enjoy reading his writing. So yeah.
Nice. Where can I find Jose?
He writes for Grant's site.
For what site?
Grant's all SF 49ers fan nation.
So SI, it's an SI
SI,
deal.
yes, exactly.
Okay. Good to know. I'm coming out of Safeway 2 days ago. I'm talking to my son with this on the speakerphone about the show,
Oh,
and we're talking about different things. And these two young guys come out or walking in the parking lot, and the guy comes up to me and he goes, "Hey, man, I know you. I know you."
look at that.
And I go, "Oh yeah?" And he goes, "Grant Cohn." And I'm like,
Look
no,
at
no, no,
that.
no, no. Larry Krueger. He's like, "Oh yeah, man, but you're on with Grant Cohn." And I go,
Uh,
"Yeah, yeah." He's like, "Man, you're a real one." That's all he said to me. "You're a real one." I don't know. I don't know what I think
he
that was
loves you, Krug.
I think that was a good moment. My son was laughing. He's like, "Dad, it's crazy." Some random guy in the parking lot's like, "Hey man, you're a real one." All right. Most okay, so we got that one. Give me the camp battle outside of Darnold against Trey. Give me the camp battle that if I put you on the field at training camp, and you know the field, you know the scene at training camp, right? There's two huge fields.
Yeah.
So you can't see, I mean, you could. I mean, I feel like I can see it all at once, but you got to kind of pick your spot, right? You either have to be on this field or that field, and you can either go watch the D lineman in the corner or you can watch the receivers in this corner. It's hard to watch everybody every day. You kind of got to pick your spots. That being said, you're on the field. You're walking out there. It's the first training camp practice. There's a bunch of competitions. We've already talked about a bunch of them over the last month or so. Give me the competition outside of Darnold versus Lance, which is going to be the highest of high profile
Obviously.
competitions. Which competition are you most excited to see this summer outside of the QBs? Some people might say the kickers.
Yeah, so I have three actually.
Go for it.
And I'll mention them all to you. First one is the starting Sam linebacker. I'm excited to see what Marcelino McCrary Ball does this camp. I'm excited to see how Demetrius Flanagan Foles looks. I love D. Winters. We didn't get to mention him throughout
Tremendous.
this. D. Winters is an absolute football player. D. Winters could be the starting Sam linebacker when it's all said and done. He's a stud.
He's like a Greenlaw type guy. He's
Exactly.
so fast. He's so
exactly
instinctive.
That's exactly who he is. Exactly. I wouldn't be shocked, in fact, if Dre Greenlaw is looking for a new contract because he got way underpaid this past offseason when he signed next offseason. The Niners look to move off of him. And D. Winters, there you go, fills in. So I'm going to be looking forward to that. I'm also going to be looking forward to the battle at nickel because I think there's quite a few names. I think Isaiah Oliver is probably the leader in the clubhouse, but I like Miles Hartsfield. I still think Womack has got a really good chance there. In fact, I think the best nickel on the roster currently is Diamador Lenore, so it just depends on whether they view keeping him outside as the most essential thing. But yes, that's one I would like to see. And then finally, Larry, this one's going to surprise everybody. I'm excited to watch the running backs behind Christian McCaffrey. I want to see what kind of camp Ty Davis Price has. I like Ty Davis Price a lot when he came out. I also like Trey Sermon a lot when he came out. Stuck by that one a little too long, but I'm excited to see the running back battle behind McCaffrey because we know Jordan Mason's very talented. He's got a lot of fans amongst Niners, fans, I guess. Jordan Mason has a lot of fans amongst Niners fans. And then I'm just excited to watch not only him, but also Ty Davis Price, also Elijah Mitchell.
Well, and don't forget those undrafted guys. The kid from UTEP's real, Ronald Awatt, and the kid from Marshall was a 5-star at Florida State, Kalen Laburn. I mean, he was a 5-star guy, and he's real. I mean, I would not be surprised if you told me that the Laburn or Awatt made the team and that the Niners wind up trading, a TDP or one of their other backs. Wouldn't shock me at all. Wouldn't shock me at all.
No.
I'm going to go tight end. I think it's wide open, man. I think you have Kittle and then literally 2 or 3 open spots between Dwelly, Braden Willis, Charlie Warner, and Cameron Latu. I think those 4 guys battle for 2 spots. I think they probably only go with 3 tight ends. I think Kittle's the only lock to make the roster. And obviously, you got the incumbents who have carved out nice roles. I mean, the Niners like Dwelly. They like Warner. But Braden Willis is also really attractive. And Latu was drafted in the 3rd round, and he's got some really intriguing measurables. And I just think that's, some of these other battles, there's like a leader in the clubhouse. In that one, I just think they're going to roll everybody out there and see what they got. If you told me that Dwelly and Warner were back and that they cut the other 2 guys, I'd be mildly surprised, but not shocked. And if you told me that Latu and Braden Willis,
I'd be shocked.
Well, one guy's a 7th round pick. Maybe if they cut their 3rd round pick.
3rd round pick, yeah, that's what I was going to say. I'd be floored.
Yeah, but I'll say this: if Warner and Dwelly and Willis look great, and Latu is running around dropping balls, he ain't making it. He might make it on the practice squad, but he won't make it on the active roster. They won't go. Latu doesn't. He's not on scholarship, as they say. Some of these guys are on scholarship. Like he's not on scholarship. Like I think Robert Beal is going to be on scholarship, and I think D. Winters is on scholarship, and I think Darrell Luter is on scholarship, and Jair Brown. Those get maybe even Jake Moody, but I don't think that Latu is on scholarship. If he doesn't play well, I don't think that they'll hesitate to put him on the practice squad and go with the other guys.
I agree with you. Actually, I don't know if I agree with you there. I'm not sure about that one. You laid out a great point, but I gotta give it a little bit more thought.
Give it some more thought. Yeah. One note that I think is interesting. I went on 49er Web Zone. Are you familiar? 49er Web Zone. And to me, my 2 go-tos are 49er Web Zone and Niners Nation. I'll check out both those. But there's a report by David Bonilla on 49ers Web Zone that the Niners rookie practice on Friday and Saturday, the rookie minicamp, that Steven Montez has gotten an invite. The Colorado quarterback, who's only 26. Montez is interesting. Montez is 6'5". He's super athletic. He's got a really good arm. I'm eager to see what he looks like. He was not a I'm reading some of the invites, some of the other invites. Texas A&M University Commerce defensive back Darius Williams, Michigan State defensive back Ronald Williams, New Mexico State linebacker Trevor Brohard. But Steven Montez was not bad in the Pac-12, and he's pretty big, pretty athletic. He's played in the XFL. He's played with the Commanders, NFL practice squads with the Commanders and the Lions. He's played in the XFL. Niners didn't have a quarterback available for rookie camp after using a draft pick on the position or signing an undrafted rookie. So we'll see. I mean, they've got the kid from Oklahoma, Brandon Allen, or Arkansas, I should say, Brandon Allen as the 4th quarterback, but Steven Montez should be an interesting rookie camp.
You think he makes it to the offseason on the roster?
Probably not. Probably not.
Okay.
But Brandon Allen, I think, is that. I think that job. I think it's safe to say if Montez looked awesome, yeah, they would go with him over Brandon Allen. It's just a guess, though. Terradome says when the pads go on, Jordan Mason is this team's purest running back. I do love Jordan Mason, man. I felt like the Niners should have used him more last year. I don't know how you feel about Jordan Mason, but
I like him a lot too, but I don't look, they clearly put an emphasis on their backs being able to have that responsibility of being able to line up as receiver and as a runner. And right now they seem to only trust the bulk of their snaps to be handled by Christian McCaffrey and Elijah Mitchell. I think they look at Jordan Mason as purely just a runner right now. I do agree that Terradome brings up a good point. He is a very instinctive and talented runner for sure. When you look at his size, how quick he is at his size, and his film is very good. But I kind of understand also why they don't play him as much as they do. Maybe they could use him more to grind out games at the end. But Christian McCaffrey is a pretty outstanding runner in his own right. It's hard not to give him the ball either. So
one of the best ones I saw in here was Vish is fried. Here it is,
What?
Mind Springers. Vish is fried.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, dude, I'm gonna let you go because, dude, I've already taken too much of your time. We're 90 minutes in. We've gone 2 hours in the past, but not this late, and so I'm gonna let you get on with your night.
Dude, it's completely okay. I was really busy. I know we wanted to do this on Thursday or Friday, and
That's all right.
I've been kind of delaying on you, so I'm excited for us to finally have some conversations about it. And it's seeming like we have a lot more meat on the bone somehow to discuss on Tuesday. So I'm looking forward to our discussion. I'll text you. Hopefully we could get back to our usual Tuesday or Thursday, Friday-ish schedule.
Yeah, love to do it. We'll text back and forth and pick a time.
For sure.
Good stuff, man. Peace. Have a great rest of your night, man.
You too, Krug. Don't stay up too late.
I won't. I got eight starred chats, and then I'm bolting for the door.
All right, awesome. Have a great rest of your night.
You too, man. There you go. The great Vish Kumaran. Mind Springers. Vish is fried. Yeah, Vish. I mean, you got to remember this. It's 10:35 here. That means it's 12:35 in Chicago. So Vish is doing us a solid coming on late at night. I've got 8 starred chats. We'll probably make it 10. We got 10 starred chats. 10. Okay. 10 starred chats, including that one from Kyle. I'm going to star that one from Kyle. But 10 starred chats. But first, let me mention our sponsors. We're brought to you by Pig and a Pickle and Telmetrics.co and the New York Style Italian Sausage Company. First, let's hear from Pig and a Pickle.
We grew up with a Sunday dinner. That means no matter how busy you were, no matter where the hell you were, you came to dinner on a Sunday night. Yeah, Sunday dinner without sausage, it's like a church without God. You know, how can you go to church if you don't believe in God? You know, and along with the sausage also became the discussions. That was discussion night. You know, it wasn't a typical family that you sit there and you're quiet, you know, and you don't talk with a mouthful. Oh no, man. Italians talk when they're eating. Italians even talk when they're sleeping. And definitely we talk with our hands. So if we can't express it through our mouth, through our lips, we express it with our hands. So, and that's what sausage is, really. It's an expression, you know, that life is good.
right. Well, there we go. Welcome back to the Krug Show. Coming down the home stretch. All right. Let's read the super chats, or not the super chats, but the starred chats. The starred chats. Joe Schmo, Pasquale, legend. There we go. We're off and running. All right. Let me hit the other starred chats here, and they're all pretty good. We got this one from Randall Riley. It's getting to watch shows like Larry's that makes me glad I'm a night owl. I appreciate that. We don't always go late, but sometimes we do. And the last couple of nights we've been going late. Mark Hope. Larry, no BS. You're a freaking legend on the mic. A dedicated father and husband. Shout out the Krueger fam. Thank you. No, Mark is not my burner account. We the people audit. Nobody is really talking about right tackle. That is the biggest weakness on the team. You got to remember this. The Niners love Colton McKivitz. Someone says, pass your bedtime, Vish. It is past his bedtime. He's got to go. Kyle McKiernan, Mason was smoking the front line repeatedly when he was in. How good was his run against Seattle? We got this one. We the people audit. 49ers should trade for Jonah Williams. Or he just says 49ers trade for Jonah Williams. I don't think he's reporting that, right? That has not happened. That's the Cincinnati Bengals left tackle who really has struggled at left tackle. So, he doesn't want to play right tackle. So, if you don't want to play it, that's kind of a big problem. He's not very good at left tackle. He had a really bad year last year. I think he was rated like really lowly compared to the rest of the left tackles in the league, and he makes a lot of money. So probably not a fit, but I like the idea. Waveware, I do hope they pull the trigger on Chase, Floyd, or Houston. That would be an elite of an elite in the league. You're talking about Chase Young, Leonard Floyd, or Justin Houston. They need an edge rusher. They absolutely need an edge rusher. To answer Larry's question, it's right tackle and defensive end. Those are the needs. Okay. Mark Hope, Larry, who replaces Al Shire? Maybe Marcelino McCrary Ball. Maybe D. Winters. They're stacked at linebacker, though. It's a great linebacking core. We the people audit. McGlinchey can't block to save his life. That's Denver's problem, not ours. He's in Denver. Don't forget that. Mark Hope, Scott McLuhan won. He chills out at home and gets $200,000 to $300,000 for advice. Seriously. McLuhan's figured it out. Mark Hope, if I was an NFL GM, I would never let Scott McLuhan walk out of the building. I stand by him 100%. I agree. And if I were a GM, if I were John Lynch, I would absolutely go to Jed and say, Jed, I know you're paying me a grip of cash. I know you're paying Peters. But let's hire Scott. Let's hire Scott as a consultant. Let's hear what he has to say. If you're truly confident in your opinion, then you want to be surrounded by equally smart people who have an educated opinion. I'll say this. If I was the GM, I wouldn't be insecure. I'd be like, yeah, give me Scott McLuhan to talk to about these players. I'm not always going to agree. I might disagree, but I want to hear what he has to say. Absolutely, I want to hear what he has to say. Mark Hope says, go back and look at Scott McLuhan's guys, absolute studs, all of them. 49ers' demise started and continues to this day from when he left. It's not a bad call. Not a bad call at all. Though I do think Lynch has got things going in a good direction right now. Dusty Gold says, I would hire Scott McLuhan. Scott knows his stuff. Yeah. Scott had some issues off the field that I think were really more integral to him not being here than anything. So I mean, that's it. I mean, I think that's really it right there. Randy Daytona, 1, 2, Larry's creating content for you. 3, 4, get your coat and run out the door. 5, 6, get your pickle and pig. 7, 8, Larry doesn't hate Trey. 9, 10, Larry's at it again. It's very almost it's almost like Nightmare on Elm Street. A little bit of a Kind of out of the Nightmare on Elm Street flashback there. Waveware, great linebackers we have. No doubt. Randall Riley, Floyd, please. Yeah, how great would Leonard Floyd be in the Niners uniform? Mark Hope, super sticker. Thank you, Mark. Appreciate you, brother. Appreciate you greatly. Randall Riley, you don't go late, Larry. It's 1:40 a.m. here where I'm at. Yeah, that's right. Damn, Randall. Appreciate you staying up late. And sorry that we don't have Rye here for your old lady. Mindspringers, Larry is the GOAT. If you had ripped me, I wouldn't have put it up there. The Freak, I wish Dan Cilio covered the team. Dusty Gold, Larry's the star. If you'd crapped on me, I wouldn't put it up there. Mark Hope, thanks, Larry, for the show tonight. Lots going on. I appreciate it. It's my Friday. I worked the graveyard over the weekend. Great show. Hey, happy weekend. It's Miller time. It's Miller time for you. And the last one, Dusty Gold, R.I.P. Vita. Yeah, you guys, I don't know how many of you guys in the chat knew or know Vita Blue, but Vita Blue was a great pitcher. And, from Mansfield, Louisiana, and just a great guy. Was maybe the most famous person in America in 1970, 71, burst onto the scene, started the 71 All-Star game against the National League, a lineup that had Willie Mays and Hank Aaron in it. How about that? That was the night Reggie hit one off the light tower at Tiger Stadium. But, I grew up as a little kid in the Sunset District rooting for the Giants. I was 9 when they traded for Vita Blue, and Vita had a great 78 season. I guess maybe I was 8 because I was born in 70. So the Giants acquired him before 78, and he was great. I think he won 18 games, led a Giants resurgence. One of the reasons I'm such a Giants fan is Vita Blue. When I was 8, he was awesome. And then, getting to know Vita through the years and his lovely wife, Michelle. And he was so devoted to the Northern Lights School. She was a big part of that. They would have golf tournaments every summer. I played in that golf tournament most years and had just a ball, just absolute great time. And, me and Vita would talk ball. We would talk about, the world and how it was changing and for the better. And he was an optimist, and he was a great guy, just a cool guy. And he would just be like, Krug, I like you. It's like we just got along so well. And I could be real with him, and he could be real back. He was just a one of a kind guy, tremendous athlete. Could hit the shit out of the golf ball. Tremendous hitter, tremendous pitcher. I say tremendous hitter because I think he had a grand slam. I think he was a switch hitter. And I think he hit a grand slam in his first year in the National League. But I mean, he was an incredible player and one of the best of his era. And he's one of the few guys who literally, there was a mania. The same way there was Mark the Bird Fidrich mania, there was Vita mania in the early 70s. And just to go from this Bay Area sports legend, national legend, to he was one of the reasons I was so excited about Giants baseball when I was 8 years old, to getting to know him, hanging out with him, playing in golf tournaments together, riding around, talking. He just was such a great, cool guy, just such a cool guy. And he's gone way too soon, way too young. Terrific person, and experienced a lot of racism, but it never hardened his soul, never changed who he was, never dimmed his hope. Just loved people, loved people, loved the game of baseball, loved talking about it, loved Michelle, loved Northern Lights School, loved the Giants and the A's, loved talking ball. Tremendous man. Tremendous man. And I'm going to miss him a lot. So R.I.P. Vita. One of a kind, man. One of a kind. Randy Daytona says, great pitcher. Better guy. Better guy. Shanti Ortega. Vita was awesome. No doubt. No doubt. Vita Blue died. Damn, he was the GOAT. Green glass full. Yeah. Dusty Gold. I have Vita's book. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Said, heard of his name. Yeah, look him up if you haven't heard of him. Go watch him. He was incredible. Brought just absolute smoke. Finley tried to trade him. They traded all the players around him. He was the last guy there. It's like last guy out, hit the lights on the way out the door. He was like the last guy out of Oakland. Giants traded a bunch of nobodies to get him, and he was their ace. But just a guy who loved people, loved the fans, loved talking ball. Just a really cool dude. And I remember asking him just a stupid question because he was from Mansfield, Louisiana. I'm like, why didn't you play at LSU? Stupid me. Because they wouldn't take him. And that was and we talked about it. He's like, oh, Krug. He goes, and this is when I was really young too. And I was just coming up. I'm like, why don't you pitch for LSU? Like, wasn't available to me, but he wasn't bitter about it. He understood that times were different, and just an amazing guy. And I wish he was still here. I love to play golf with him. We probably played at least six or seven rounds. He could absolutely put a charge into the golf ball. He had all kinds of trick shots. I remember one time we're playing and my ball's buried between two trees. And he's like, come on, Krug, you can punch it through there. And I'm like, I can't. And he's like, you want me to take this shot for you? I'm like, yeah, Vita, come over here, take the shot. We were in a foursome with some people who had paid money to play with us. And he's having a good old time. And he shot this thing through about 5 different trees, didn't touch one of them, landed right on the lip of the green. I mean, I'm like, Vita. He's like, on the scorecard, that's your shot. Oh, man. He was just a great guy. Just a great guy. We told so many stories, and he was a great listener. He would listen to your stories. Just a tremendous man. Tremendous man. Great player, but a better man. Better man. I'm going to miss him. It's amazing. Life goes by. The old saying, none of us are getting out of here alive. And that's just the way life is. But it's a hard reality for all of us. And I've done so many events with Vita. I tweeted out a picture of me and him from when we played golf a couple of years ago. And I've done all kinds of charity events with him. People would come up to him, Vita, I want to tell you this story. He'd listen patiently to their story. Just awesome. Just an awesome person. And I'm going to miss him. And he leaves a huge void. Just one of Northern California's favorites. And it's like he really touched everybody too, because he was a Giants fan. He was an A's fan. He was an American League guy. He was a National League guy. And everybody loved Vita. And everywhere we went for these different events, raising money for the school or just charities, he was always there to help out, always there to lend a helping hand, always there, just an easy, cool guy to talk to. And he had his own issues with, substance and that kind of thing through life. But, he never let it change his personality or how he approached people. Just loved the guy. Absolutely loved him. And he was just such a cool, down-to-earth guy. I'm going to miss him a lot. I don't want to get that emotional, but it's This, to me, he's not a player. He's a friend. And, you lose people that you love and people that are real friends, and it hurts. This one hurts. Mark Hope says, first game at the Stick was Vita on the Hill against the Reds in 78. That was the Big Red Machine. Vita was great. Absolutely great. We got this one from Kyle. He says, I'm confused. Is this discussion about Scott McLuhan or Ned Coletti? Scott McLuhan. We're talking about Scott McLuhan. Green Glass Full says Vita was the best. Damn. R.I.P. Kyle. R.I.P. Vita. Green Glass Full. Vita took my best calls on KMBR. He loved that, too. He loved taking calls. He loved talking to the fans. Dusty Gold. Thanks, Vita, for the A's and Giants memories. R.I.P. Yeah. Special, special human being. Mark Hope. Yep, Larry. My first game at the Stick was Vita on the bump versus the Big Red Machine. Took Golden Gate Transit from Santa Rosa. There you go. Down Lombard Street. Yeah, he was great. Mark Hope. Larry, you're right. Vita put up 18 freaking wins in 78. He was great. He was absolutely great. He still had it. A Green Glass Full. He was great on KMBR. Mitchell and Ness, happy belated birthday. I think 92 for Willie Mays. I interviewed Willie Mays in the dugout at Oracle Park, Pac Bell Park at the time in 2000. The greatest of all time. And I have no doubt in my mind that he was the greatest of all time. Kyle McKiernan, he and Lasky, Vita and Lasky on KMBR were rad when I lived all those years in the Bay. Yeah, he's just a tremendous person. Shante Ortega, love the Vita stories, Larry. Thanks for sharing. Oh, I could tell you more. He was incredible. He was, he was just, we were playing golf. It was me, him, and who's the guy from the Men's Warehouse? I guarantee it. That guy. What was his name from the Men's Warehouse? Somebody in the chat. Who is the guy from the Men's Warehouse who smoked like a pack a day and had that super deep voice? I guarantee it. That guy. Anyway, the three of us and another young lady played golf. There was the four of us. And Vita would Zimmerman. Yeah, there you go. Zimmerman, I think his name is George Zimmer. There we go. Green Glass Full. Yeah, so me, George Zimmer, and Vita playing golf, and George Zimmer's girlfriend, I don't remember if it was wife, girlfriend, might have been a lady that ran his stores, but he had brought her to the event. Anyway, Vita knew that George, he was the deep-pocketed guy. And so we got to some hole where there's like a big donation, and the girl was trying to push me for donations because Vita's like, this guy's on KMBR and you can listen to this guy. This guy's one of my favorites, man. You can listen to this guy any night and he knows it all. He's like talking me up. And George Zimmer's like, hey, what about me over here? And I go, yeah, Vita, he's the guy with the cash. And then he's like, yeah, wait, forget about Krug. George here. He starts talking about George, and then he's like, I'll hit this shot for these guys. If I hit the green, George, you're paying or whatever like that. And because he was like, Krug, you don't got no money. You're with me. Sure enough, Vita stuck the shot on the green, and George Zimmer wound up paying some money. It was a great hole, and we're all having a nice little drink afterwards and talking about it. It was just great times, great memories. Vita, and this was all to benefit the Northern Lights School, which is a school that is in Oakland, I believe, that Vita cared a lot about. I know Michelle, who was very close to Vita, she was very devoted to the school. And this golf tournament they had was there to raise money for scholarships for this incredible school. And Vita was so devoted to it and so just wed to, we're going to raise money. We're going to raise money. And, we just had a good old time. And he just always made you feel good. Vita was the kind of guy, he was a feel-good guy. Everybody loved being around Vita, and he would tell stories, and he would talk about, pitching the game one of the All-Star game. He told me a story about how he's like, Krug, before game one of the Dodgers World Series in 74, Holtzman and blankety blank Reggie are fighting it out in the clubhouse. I mean, we're getting ready to walk out to the national anthem for game one of the World Series, and we got guys throwing guys over lockers and full-on brawl going on in the clubhouse. He's like, we had to go play the World Series after that. And I'm picturing the A's of the 70s, and I'm thinking, wow, that's unbelievable. But just Vita could tell these stories and just put you right in the moment. And I love the guy. I absolutely loved him. All right, that's going to do it for us. Thank you to everybody. Thanks to our sponsors. Thanks to all of you. We got a great schedule coming up this week on the show. Tomorrow at 9 a.m., Lee Gowland is going to be in the house from the UK. It's probably going to be in the middle of the night in the UK, but 9 a.m. tomorrow, Lee's going to be with us, and we'll talk a little bit about what he thinks of the 49ers offseason coming out of the draft. Lee's a big Niner fan. So we'll talk to Lee tomorrow morning at 9 a.m. Tomorrow at 1, the great Raj will be in the house. Looking forward to that. You can catch me tomorrow at 3 with Grant Cohn on his channel, like we always do, Monday at 3. Vish is going to stop by on Tuesday. Also, tomorrow night is Game 4, Warriors-Lakers and Giants-Nationals. So we'll do a kind of a combo post-game tomorrow night right around 10 o'clock. So catch me in the morning with Lee Gowland. Catch me at 1 o'clock with Raj. Catch me at 3 o'clock with Grant Cohn. Or catch me at 10 o'clock with the boys in the post-game after Warriors-Lakers Game 4. I think this is it. This is a big game. Warriors got to win this game. Tuesday, Vish stops by. We'll probably be on Vish's channel. So that's Tuesday. Wednesday, catch me with Wayne Breezy. Also, Wednesday's Game 5, Warriors-Lakers. So that's a 7 o'clock tip. So we'll be on at 10 o'clock after that one. Thursday morning, Steve Weish is going to stop by from the NFL Network. Steve contacted him today. He'll be by Thursday at 9 a.m. Looking forward to that. And then Thursday night at 7 p.m., Jesse Naylor is going to be in the house. We've missed a couple weeks with Jesse, so we'll talk a little ball with Jesse. And then Friday, I'm down in Santa Clara for rookie minicamp, Friday and Saturday. So maybe I'll go live. Warriors-Lakers Game 6 is Friday night. So maybe we'll talk a little bit about the Warriors and a little bit about the Niners in that rookie minicamp. Saturday's also rookie minicamp. Giants take on Arizona. Warriors-Lakers Game 7 is Sunday if necessary. So good stuff. Thanks to all of you for being here. We got Mitchell and Ness saying Larry and Grant fire. It's always fun. Grant's going to bring it. I'll have to joke with him about how people thought I was him. Grant Cohn. Like, no. Larry Krueger. He's like, oh yeah, but you're on with Grant Cohn. I was like, dude, I've been on the radio for fucking 25 fucking years, and now I'm the guy who's on with Grant Cohn. It just shows the power of YouTube. Anyway, hey guys, have a great rest of your night. Hope you enjoyed the live stream talking to Niners. Got a lot of people in here. Hope you enjoyed it. Have a great rest of your night. We'll see you tomorrow. Peace.
Yeah, never met a man I've been scared of. Careful, you gon' get exactly what you asked for. Here for whatever